All right, looks like we are live. And I know it's a Sunday, so welcome to a special edition of Properties and Beers on a Sunday. So, you know what? Let's chat a little about the one about missing the boom. Have you ever looked back and thought, if I just held on a little bit longer, maybe everything could have been different? Well, I've got a story exactly like that. And it's kind of like that story, Acres of Diamonds. And those that don't know the story of Acres of Diamonds, it's actually a story told by Russell Cornwell about a prosperous Persian farmer named Ali Hafed who was searching, who literally sold his farm to go and search for diamonds, only for the person who bought the farm to actually find diamonds right at his own farm. Unfortunately, Ali died a poor man, but the person who bought his farm was a very wealthy man. And I've kind of got a story a little bit like that. So now I've seen, and the reason why I want to talk to you about that today is I've seen people walk away from life changing results, not because the deal was bad, but really because the timing felt slow. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about patience, endurance, and the kind of long term thinking that actually builds wealth. So, hey, everyone. Welcome back to Properties and Beers. I'm Gaurav Gupta, CEO and founder of Ethical Property Investments. We help everyday Aussies just like you build steady, ethical wealth through high cash flow properties that do good and make money. So grab a drink today. Today I'm having, what are we having? Havana Club, one of my faves. Those that don't know, this is a Havana Club Especial, Anejo, which is aged typically about 7 years, and it's made by one of the maestros in Cuba. So let's give it a go. It's one of my favorites, but I haven't had this for a while, so it's been about a year. Cheers, guys. It's been about oh wow, I forgot what that tastes like. It was delicious. It was strong at the same time. It bites you back. Uh, it is delicious. So let's talk about missing the boom. And there's a story I've got today about Toowoomba. So let me take you back to a story about, from the early days of 10 properties in 10 years, before it became ethical property investments, we were helping some of our clients, and these were some of our first few clients. We helped them buy in Toowoomba. It wasn't sexy, it wasn't trending, and it was just still. And it should have gone up. It actually missed the boom that it was going to have pretty much in the first few years. And for years, the growth was flat. I was like, man, this should have been a good deal. Rents were stable, but nothing special. And these people started thinking that they actually made a mistake. And some, in fact, I think most of the investors who invested in that project sold because, the builder went bust and this and that. But even though that didn't matter, most of them sold it more than what they bought for. Some sold at the same price what they bought for. And they figured, I'll get out and I'll move on to something better because they got really bad advice. And then, boom. You know what? I was checking the valuations the other day and I was like, hey, Toowoomba's gone up. Let me check what's happening. And within a few years, turns out these properties as well, lo and behold, have grown in value, not just a little bit, but by 80% value in 3 years. And I was showing my friend a message. And I'll see if I can find it. I'll load this up, right? 80%, right? That's life-changing results. So I was showing my friend that message, and I'll see if I can load it up. Where is it? Lennon, if you're watching, you know who I'm talking about, and this is you. And it looks like most people sold it just before the growth curve. So there's one person who sold. Now, these were duplexes. So he sold one side of the duplex at 332,000. Now, he probably picked it up at about close to, from memory, about 320. So he sold it just a little bit above. Guess how much it worth today? By the way, that sale was in 15 September 2023. Today, that same duplex half is worth $510,000. That's pretty much an 80% valuation growth in 3 years. And you know what? The ones who held, they probably have some life-changing results. The one who sold kind of ended up with a bittersweet taste in their mouths. And because it was all about selling or holding on to it until it actually grew, right? And here's the lesson. The market doesn't pay you for excitement. It pays you for endurance. I heard somewhere the other day, you don't get rewarded for effort. You get rewarded for consistency. And property, my friends, is the same game. When you're patient while everyone else gets emotional, that's where the magic happens. It's kind of like what Warren Buffett says. Be greedy when everyone else is scared, and be scared when everyone else is greedy. Right? It's kind of like that. So it's really important to be patient in the property market because that's the name of the game. So when I see markets today, regional towns, lower zones, I kind of don't see stagnation. I see a setup. Now, but if you're going to invest in regional towns, we've had our 18-year cycle, and I've learned a few things since then. It is an 18-year cycle, so wait for the 18 years to wash. If you're looking at the regional areas right now, outside of if you look at Ballarat, etc., right now in this moment, I'd probably wait a while, right? But there's other markets, and the other markets are moving in the right cycle. So there's trends happening, especially in a lot of places around Melbourne and Geelong. Markets move in cycles at the end of the day. The moment most investors lose faith is a moment before the next run begins, right? And that's why we believe property has always got to be a long-term strategy, because time in the market beats timing the market every single day. And yes, we can still time the market, but that's crystal ball gazing, for lack of a better term, right? And we're not here to gaze on crystal balls. We're here to look at what actually works for people, right? So I also, the other day, someone came up to me and I was at a party, and, at the party, someone said, "Hey, how do we spot a dodgy advisor?" Well, there's a 5-question sanity check, and I'll cover that in a moment, but I need to have a drink. So I said, there's a 5-question sanity check to spot dodgy advisors. And let's talk about that, right? When people buy property too early or sell too late or whatever that situation is, or even lose confidence halfway through, it comes down to one thing, and that, my friends, is bad advice. So if you want to protect yourself and make the clear decisions, here's my 5-question sanity check. Here's what I tell my own family before trusting anyone in property. Number one, ask them how they're getting paid. And hey, everyone's got a right to get paid, right? It's important that you know how they're getting paid and for what. Are they getting commission from the developer? Do they earn more when you buy a certain product? Or are you the client? Are they charging you, right? Ask them directly, because, look, most people aren't a charity and they're doing this for money, and it's important for them to make money, but it's also important and your responsibility to ask how they're making the money and see if you're comfortable with that, right? Now, if someone's aligned with you, they'll answer that clearly. If they hesitate, that tells you everything you need to know, whether you should trust them or not. Because I believe that transparency builds trust, evasion breaks it, right? That's really important to know. Now, number 2, right? Have they invested in this product or something similar to this product themselves? If they're recommending a strategy, location, build, ask if they've done it personally, not our clients have done it. I mean, that's a bullshit response. It shouldn't be our clients have done it, them personally. Ask them their experience here. So I belong to an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. One of the things we do in our masterminds, we don't ask for coaching. We don't ask for advice. We ask for experiences. What did you do in this situation? Because here's the thing. If they're not going to put up their own money, put their own money where their mouth is, then why should you, right? Conviction shows up in commitment, right? That's really important. So and that's why, we see where there's specialists in SDA and co-living combination, because, hey, I've invested in both those myself. Yes, I'm helping clients do it, and we've got the experience here, not just from ourselves and our clients, but it's there, and I can say, hey, here's the good, here's the bad, here's the ugly. Here's the truth as it is, right? And third thing, is there a rental guarantee attached? Because if it is, run the other way. Let's be real. Rental guarantees sound comfortable. How nice does a guaranteed rental sound? But you know what? 90% of the time, they're perfume on a bad deal. They make the weak rental demand look strong. They dress up numbers that wouldn't survive the real market. And honestly, if you really need a rental guarantee to buy a property, maybe you shouldn't be buying that damn property, right? If the guarantee ends up on your property, what happens when it reverts to the true rent? That's when the truth comes out. That's when the tide goes down and you see who's wearing the clothes, so to speak, right? Don't chase the guarantee, chase genuine demand. Strong fundamentals always beat shiny incentives, and that's really important to know. And number 4, how long have they been in the game? What have they actually done, right? Experience isn't just about years. Some people spend 20 years making the same mistakes. Others spend 5 years mastering their craft. Now, you want to work with someone who's lived through market cycles, been through the ups, downs, left, right, sideways, property tax craziness, and all of that sort of stuff, right? Someone who's seen the downturns, the booms, the recoveries, and helped real investors stay steady throughout all of it, and ask them at the times things went wrong, not just the highlight reels, right? You want wisdom, not hype. And that's how we focus on it. Ask them what worked, what didn't work. Uh, and number five, right? The thing that the final thing that you should be looking at when you're working with someone is, do they show you the full picture, numbers, risks, and alternatives, right? The best advisors aren't really afraid to talk about what could go wrong, because it's important to talk about what could go wrong, right? Anyone could paint a rosy picture and go, hey, this, you know what? I gotta pause it here. I was speaking to a property valuer for SDA the other day, and they said this organization, which has already been in trouble in the media, have said there's huge demand in this one suburb where 90% of that suburb is literally SDA. There's such an oversupply that it will never be tenanted. And yet this person, it's a female, spoke to the valuer and said, we have heaps of tenancy demand there, when I know for a fact that's a lie. And look, that's the thing, right? My responsibility, I feel, as an advisor, as in, not a financial planner, but really someone who helps you decide whether this particular property is right for you or not, is show you the reality. Here's the numbers, here's the risks, and here's the alternatives. The best advisors, as I said, aren't afraid to talk about what goes wrong. They're going to show you the cash flow, the real expenses, the vacancy rates, the maintenance realities. They'll say, here's the best case, here's the worst case, and you know what? Here's the real case, the truth that's in between. Now, in my common sense corner, as Tony likes to call it, right? If someone avoids the risk talk, they're not protecting you. They're really protecting their sale, right? And great advisors show you everything so that you can make your own informed decision, because confidence, I believe, a lot of people say, I'll rephrase that, right? I believe confidence should come from clarity, and instead of all this hype bullshit that's out there, right? You don't need hype. You need clarity. You need numbers. You need alternatives, and you need the truth, right? It's quite often I speak to my clients and I say, hey, look, I'll probably make more money if you buy this, but I don't think that's right for you where you are in your journey right now. I think you should probably have a closer look to see if this or this product is right for you because of your risk profile, right? Now, I'm going to pull it all together. At the end of the day, when you connect the lessons, the Toowoomba story, the 5 questions, the message is really clear. The right advice helps you stay calm throughout the slow years, so you're still standing when the boom finally arrives, and you don't sell that damn farm before you strike it rich, right? Long-term wealth is boring in the middle and brilliant at the end, because it's called long-term wealth. It's not short-term or medium-term wealth, right? And if you get your guidance right, the boring middle, hey, just becomes your advantage, because 300,000 can turn into 500,000 in just 2 years' time if you hold on, right? Like the example I gave earlier with Toowoomba. So if you're here, by the way, drop me a line, say hi. Now, by the way, most people who watch Properties and Peers aren't following our pages yet, and that's where it's like watching the trailer and missing the movie, right? So if you found this helpful, make sure you're following Ethical Property Investments on Facebook, Instagram, where we post weekly updates, insights, and hey, we even do Property of the Week. So there's some real world examples there. So tonight's takeaway, my friends, be patient, ask better questions, play the long game, because while most investors are chasing the next shiny thing, the smart ones stay in the game long enough to watch the miracle of compounding growth really kick in. Boring now, brilliant later. That, my friends, is how true wealth is made. Cheers.